Welcome students. My name is Manas Jyoti Malakar. I welcome you all to the daily Assam Tribune analysis video. Today we are discussing the Assam Tribune of 30th July 2020. This analysis video is made based on new pattern of APSC combined competitive examination. However, this analysis video will also be helpful for other state level government exams. The PDF file of this video analysis can be obtained from the description link below or WhatsApp number provided in description. So I request every aspirant to join the WhatsApp group to get regular free materials. So now we begin with the analysis of the Assam Tribune dated 30th July 2020. In this video analysis, we are discussing the topics as mentioned in the screen. We have obtained these topics from the Assam Tribune and we have segregated the topics based on the syllabus provided by the APSC on new pattern. The first topic we are discussing today is the National Education Policy approved. This topic comes under the governance and social justice topic of the General Studies 2 paper in mains. As per the new policy which is approved, a single regulator for higher education institutions, multiple entry and exit options in degree courses, discontinuation of MPhil programs, low stakes board exams, common entrance exams for universities are among the highlights of the new National Education Policy which is approved by the Union Cabinet on Wednesday. The Cabinet also approved the changing of the name of the HRD Ministry into Education Ministry. The new Education Policy 2020 aims to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, from 26.3% in 2018 to 50% by 2035. The policy also envisages broad-based, multidisciplinary, holistic undergraduate education with flexible curricula, creative combinations of subjects, integration of vocational education and multiple entry and exit points with appropriate certification. Undergraduate education Undergraduate education can be of 3 or 4 years with multiple exit options and appropriate certification within this period. The key reforms in the policy are single regulator for all higher education institutions except for legal and medical colleges, common entrance exam for admissions to universities and colleges to be conducted by the National Testing Agency, and common norms to be in place for both private and public higher education institutions under the central government's new education policy. Now, from now on, board exams will be low stake. The focus will be on testing concepts and knowledge application. Home language, mother tongue, or regional language to be medium of instruction up to class 5. School curriculum will be reduced to core concepts and there will be integration of vocational education from class 6. Now coming to the next topic, recently India has obtained 5 Rafale jets. This procurement of Rafale jets is a major boost to IAF's combat capability. India received its first batch of new combat-proven fighter aircraft in 2 decades with the arrival of 5 Rafale jets, giving the country's air power a strategic edge in the midst of a bitter border war with China. The aircraft, having an undisputed track record and considered one of the most potent combat jets globally, landed at Ambala Air Force at around 3:10 p.m. after covering a distance of 7,000 kilometers from the Mérignac Air Base in French port city of Bordeaux. Now this French port city of Bordeaux and Mérignac Air Base, these are important points for preliminary, because in preliminary APSC may ask these strategic location points. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted in Sanskrit saying that there is no virtue like protecting the nation and there is no vow like defense of the nation. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has also tweeted the birds have landed safely in Ambala. The Rafales were escorted by two Sukhoi 30 aircraft after they entered the Indian airspace. The government had inked a 59,000 crore deal on September 23, 2016 to procure 36 Rafale jets from French aerospace major Dassault Aviation after a nearly 7-year exercise to procure 126 medium multi-role combat aircraft. Now here the French aerospace manufacturer, the Dassault Aviation, is a key point here because in preliminary it may be asked in the options. The emergency acquisition was made primarily to check the depleting combat capability of the IAF as the number of its fighter squadrons had come down to a worrying 31 against the authorized strength of at least 42. The fleet comprising 3 single-seater and 2 twin-seater aircraft are being inducted into the IAF as part of its Ambala-based number 17 squadron, which is also known as Golden Arrows. Now coming to the next topic, Indian Navy expands deployment in Indian Ocean following border row with China. Now the Indian Navy, this topic will come under the General Studies to International Relations. The Indian Navy has deployed a large number of frontline warships and submarines in the Indian Ocean region in the wake of the border row in eastern Ladakh to send out a clear message to China. The Indian Navy deployed a range of its frontline warships and submarines in the Indian Ocean region when the border tension escalated after the Galwan Valley clashes on June 15, in which 20 Indian Army personnel were martyred. The government adopted a multi-pronged approach involving the Army, the Indian Air Force, the Indian Navy, as well as diplomacy and economic measures to send out a firm and clear message to China that its misadventure in eastern Ladakh was not acceptable at all. This is a map of the Indian Ocean region. Here you can see at certain strategic points, Chinese presence is felt. Like here in Pakistan, they have a Gwadar port. In Sri Lanka, they have Hambantota. In Myanmar, they have Sitwe. And in Bangladesh, they have Chittagong. So this encircling of Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean is sometimes also called string of pearls. So this might be also asked in prelims based questions. So this point is important. The three service chiefs are engaged in deliberations on a regular basis to ensure a coordinated approach in dealing with the situation as well as to make China understand about India's clear message. However, there was no visible increase in forays by Chinese ships in the Indian Ocean region. So, after India has deployed many of its submarines and the ships in the Indian Ocean region, Chinese have not replicated the same. The reason could be that the Chinese Navy are engaged in the South China Sea as the US sent a number of warships to the South China Sea to demonstrate freedom of navigation and rallying support to countries who have territorial disputes with China over the region. In the recent few weeks, Indian Navy has conducted exercises with the US, French, and Japanese navies in the Indian Ocean region, which were seen as sending a signal to China. Now, coming to the next topic, appeal to scrap draft environmental impact assessment notification, that is the EIA notification. This topic comes under General Studies 3, Biodiversity Environment. The latest move of the central government proposes more exemptions in the environmental rules to be followed by companies and project developers under the Environmental Impact Assessment Notification. The EIA is a legal process under the 1986 Environment Protection Act for evaluating the likely environmental and socio-economic impacts of a proposed project or development scheme. Decision making under this process has a series of mechanisms, including participation of affected populations to the public consultation and review by technical and scientific experts to ascertain that costs of projects do not outweigh the benefits. This notification has been amended and read down several times in the last 2 decades in favor of easing the norms for business. However, the latest draft continues to move in the direction of rendering the EIA process a mere formality, whereas what is required for the protection of the Himalayan ecology are stricter and more robust environmental laws. The Government of India, under the Climate Change Action Plan, had set up a separate national mission for sustaining Himalayan ecosystems almost 10 years ago, is indicative of the criticality of protecting the biodiversity, geology, and socio-cultural fabric of this region. From the western to the eastern Himalayas, there are about 12 states which fall in the Indian Himalayas, sustaining a population of close to 80 million, dependent almost entirely on land and forest-based livelihoods. Over the last 3 decades, governments both in the states and at the center have pushed policies and projects which have contributed to severe ecological distress. Three most threatening development activities are hydropower development, construction of highways and infrastructure for commercial tourism, and growing industrialization. These activities have met with strong resistance from local communities and environmentalists. Hydropower development is being undertaken in the entire Himalayan region of India to develop a potential of 150,000 megawatt power. Nearly 90% of Indian Himalayan valleys would be affected by dam building, and 27% of these dams would affect dense forests. If all proposed 292 dams are constructed on the basis of the current global number of dams, the region will have the highest density of dams in the world. The climatic crisis is already a threat for the region with erratic rainfalls, changing weather patterns, and climate induced disasters disrupting lives and livelihoods of the inhabitants. Every year, the Himalayan states see crores of rupees worth of damage due to landslide, flash floods, abrupt rains, and forest fires. The impact of the disasters are further exacerbated by the nature and scale of construction that is going on. The Himalayan region today is in the most vulnerable position with massive climate induced disasters, increasing deforestation, loss of biodiversity, soil erosion, drying of rivers, death of groundwater resources, melting glaciers, hollowing of the mountains, solid and hazardous waste related pollution. So this mentions the various uh, disasters and threats which the Himalayan region is facing, and the proposed EIA notification may further destroy or further impact negatively the Himalayan region. As it is, this ecological region is known to be fragile, where even small changes in the landscape lead to rapid and wide-ranging impacts on the lives of millions of people. Asserting that the ecological crisis has worsened due to poor implementation of regulatory and governance mechanisms, it said that the lack of adequate and thorough scientific planning and the impact assessment studies, non-compliance of environmental norms and social accountability laws, diminishing space for democratic public participation in decision-making processes had further worsened the situation in the past few years. Now, coming to the next topic, Baxter Reserve Forest yet to be handed over to the Kaziranga National Park. Now, this topic will be under the General Studies on Assam, Biodiversity and Environment. Recently, a forest official has mentioned that there was a proposal to handing of Baxter Reserve Forest to the Kaziranga National Park authorities for its strategic importance, animal movement and genetic diversity significance, and connection to Karbi Anglong hills to safeguard from floods. So here, a question may come in preliminary examinations regarding the location of this reserve forest and Kaziranga National Park. So this topic has to be covered by covering the map-based topics of APSC prelims. Now coming to the editorial discussion, we have a topic, vanishing forests. Now this topic also comes under the general studies on Assam, biodiversity and environment. Now the essay discusses that large-scale open-cast coal mining, both legal and illegal rat hole mining and expanding stakes of the oil industry have eaten into these pristine stretches of rainforests, causing irreparable forest cover loss and environmental degradation. Add to this unabated illegal logging going on apparently with tacit approval of the authorities, it is only a matter of time before we part with this invaluable bequest from nature. These being the state's only remaining vestiges of rainforests, the government should have been extra vigilant in saving these primeval woodlands. The state government, which had proclaimed Green Assam as one of its topmost priorities, would do well to acknowledge the grave ills afflicting the Dehing Patkai range and intervene immediately. The foremost thing needed to be done is to crack down hard on illegal coal mining and logging, besides putting an end to the highly destructive practice of open cast mining as has been done by Coal India. The oil industry should not be allowed any more stakes inside these virgin forests that not only shelter wide-ranging wildlife and flora, but also act as a major oxygen generator besides sustaining the rainfall and fresh water. While the state government has done well to propose the national park status to the 111 square kilometer Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary in the wake of a string of media reports, things will be really meaningful only when the area of the tiny sanctuary is expanded considerably. Depleting forest cover has been a frightening reality for Assam and the northern states, as has been laid bare by successive state of forest reports. The loss of dense forest cover in particular, which largely accounts for much of the region's biodiversity, has been quite alarming. The share of dense and moderately dense forest in Assam, as revealed by remote sensing imagery, remains a meager 16%, which with much of the loss occurring since the mid 1980s. The reason being a biodiversity treasure trove, it makes it imperative that the factors behind this decline in forests cover are assessed and appropriate interventions made. At the root of this sorry state of affairs is the perverse culture of corruption, mismanagement, and untouchability. The I beg your pardon, unaccountability. The rapidly dwindling forest cover is not just the biggest threat to the state's wildlife and overall biodiversity, but also stands to impact seriously climatic conditions and raise pollution levels. The worsening situation calls for putting in place a mechanism involving foolproof security with matching infrastructure and manpower. Trust at the same time should also be given on involving the communities living in fringe areas as active stakeholders in the conservation process. So this ends the editorial discussion, and here we end this Assam Tribune analysis of 30 July 2020. I hope this analysis helped in your preparation. All the best.